Radiohead is one of the greatest music artists and bands of all time. Yes, it's a normie take, but it's a normie take for a reason. Radiohead's creativity and their catalog of music that they have put out is absolutely phenomenal. Now, just 2 weeks ago, popular music publication Pitchfork did a poll with their viewers to vote on what the best album of all time is. And somehow, the last two albums to make it head-to-head with each other were both Radiohead albums. And a lot of people were upset and annoyed with this. Radiohead is mid anyway, they shouldn't even be in the discussion. Now, as someone like myself who loves Radiohead, would I say the best two albums of all time are both Radiohead albums? No, I wouldn't. But should some Radiohead albums be in the discussion for the best album of all time? I actually do think so. Now, that Pitchfork poll was just with viewers, so it wasn't like one person was actually on purpose choosing two Radiohead albums to make it to the finals, so I wouldn't look too deep into it. However, that poll did give me an idea for a video. Radiohead's discography and albums ranked worst to best. Now, I know this is like the epitome of what a music nerd would make a video on, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Radiohead has 9 albums to their name, and a lot of people argue what's best, what's worst. So today I wanted to give my own personal ranking of each 9 Radiohead albums ranked from worst to best. So without any further ado, here's all 9 Radiohead albums ranked. Coming in at the last spot, number 9, and in my opinion the worst Radiohead album, we have their 8th album, their 2011 release, King of Limbs. And for me, the King of Limbs is just a big old nothing burger. This album isn't bad, but it's just really bland, and even though I have 2 songs from this album saved, they barely pass the standard of being a song I like. This album is just missing all the flavor that some of their better work has. I can't say I ever go back to this album, there's just no point. Not to mention it's only 8 songs and 37 minutes, making it the shortest Radiohead album, and this just feels like some unfinished EP instead of an actual Radiohead album. If I had to rate and grade this album, I would say I'd rate it a 6 out of 10 and grade it a D, just pretty mediocre. But by Radiohead standards, I would call it bad. Number 8 is going to be their debut album, Pablo Honey from 1993. A lot of people joke about this album, and it probably would be the worst on most lists, but for me it's not the worst. Obviously, Creep is on there, which is their most popular song, and arguably one of the most popular songs of all time. And I'm going to be real when I say Creep is a great song. Yes, overplayed to hell, and listening to Creep is like the ultimate Radiohead song to listen to that screams, I don't listen to Radiohead. But guys, it's a good song. Let's be real. But outside of Creep, I think the last song on this album, Blowout, is really good, and the first track on here, You, isn't bad either. But outside of these tracks, this album's track list is pretty mid. I'd argue that the rest of this album's quality is actually a little bit worse than King of Limbs. I mean, this just sounds like a really, really basic 90s rock album. Tom York and Radiohead were still learning their style, and you can hear it. This album isn't bad, it's just pretty mediocre, but I do come back to this album for a few good tracks, which is what makes it better than King of Limbs for me. So I'm going to rate Pablo Honey a 6 out of 10, but give it a D+. Number 7 is Radiohead's 5th studio album, Amnesiac from 2001. This came right after their critically acclaimed Kid A in 2000 and was supposed to be like a part 2 to Kid A, but I think this album just missed a lot of what made Kid A great. I think the first half of this album is pretty strong, despite a few weird moments like the opening track and Polk/Pull Revolving Doors. Songs like Pyramid Song, You and Whose Army, and Knives Out are all great songs, but I think in the second half of the album, from like 7 to 10, it's really pretty weak. But Life in a Glass House is one of the best closers on any Radiohead album, so I can't be mad at the second half entirely, and there is some really good songs on here. Amnesiac is a good album with just a lot of flaws. I would rate Amnesiac a 7 out of 10 and grade it a C. Number 6 is the album to come right after Amnesiac and their 6th studio album, Hail to the Thief from 2003. And while Hail to the Thief still made a lot of flaws like its predecessor, Amnesiac, I still think this album is a more polished version of Amnesiac. It's just a little longer. I overall view this as a better album experience. There's some bloat here, especially the midway point, but I think the beginning of this album and the end of this album have some really good highlights, with Mix Up Mitosis personally being one of my favorite Radiohead songs of all time. I would rate Hail to the Thief a 7 out of 10 and grade it a C+. Number 5 is Radiohead's last and 9th studio album, A Moon-Shaped Pool from 2016. If this is the last Radiohead album, and I assume it is, they did a great job ending their career on this one. This is one of the most unique sounding albums in Radiohead's catalog. I can understand if this album is not everyone's cup of tea, and it might drag in some spots, but overall, I think this is a really, really good album. Burn the Witch, Daydreaming, Deck's Dark, Full Stop, and obviously True Love Waits are all-time great Radiohead songs. Some people say this is the perfect album, but I think it's missing a few qualities for me to say it's Radiohead's best or to say it's perfect. However, most of this album for me is pretty great, and I would rate a Moonshaped Pool an 8 out of 10 and grade it a B+. Number 4 is going to be Radiohead's second studio album, The Bends from 1993. And the leap Radiohead made from their debut album to The Bends is insane. It didn't take Radiohead long to realize their strengths, and they showcased almost all their strengths immediately on The Bends. Every song on The Bends is a banger. High and Dry, Fake Plastic Trees, Just, My Iron Lung, Black Star, Street Spirit. Oh my goodness, this is an album that put Radiohead on the map. I genuinely enjoy and love every song on here. And an album as good as The Bends making it only 4th on a list like this shows how fantastic Radiohead's discography is. I'm going to give The Bends a 9 out of 10 and give it an A. Number 3 is going to be Kid A from 2000, their 4th studio album. And Kid A is phenomenal, to say the least. A strange, dystopian, dark, depressing sounding album that many people call the GOAT of the Radiohead discography. Many of Radiohead's best songs can be found in this album. Everything in Its Right Place, the national anthem, one of my favorites, How to Disappear Completely, Idiotech, motion picture soundtrack, and pretty much the whole track list. But I do have one issue with this album that separates it from the top 2, and that's the interlude Tree Fingers halfway in the album. Look, this isn't a bad interlude or song in the slightest, but having this in the middle of the album just feels so out of place for me. Same with Untitled, another 50-second interlude at the end of the album. It's like, why is this here? There's no reason for there to be 2 songs like this on the album. It just makes the album a little too messy for me to be perfect. But the highs on this is some of Radiohead's best, and I can't deny that, and I still love this album. I rate Kid A 9 out of 10 and grade it an A. Coming in at the number 2 spot is In Rainbows, their 7th album from 2007. And you could genuinely argue that this is one of the most beautiful albums ever made. I believe with this album, Radiohead took all their best assets of all their previous albums and put them all together into one hell of a record. It's only 10 songs and 42 minutes, but each track absolutely makes its mark. There is not a dip in quality in the slightest on any single song. 15 Step, Body Snatchers, Nude, Weird Fishes / Arpeggi, All I Need, Falstarp, Reckoner, House of Cards, Jigsaw Falling Into Place, and Videotape. Every song is perfect and unique in its own way. And the only thing you can think of when listening to this album is, how did humans possibly create this? It's just so creative, so divine, and most of all, special. I would rate In Rainbows a 10 out of 10 and give it an A+. And my number 1 Radiohead album goes to their 3rd album release, their 1997 album, OK Computer. And just when you thought an album can't get a much better explanation than what I gave In Rainbows, an album like OK Computer comes along. While In Rainbows is a perfect album, I feel like OK Computer is a perfect movie disguised as an album. The first song, Airbag, I feel instantly hooks you in for this experience, and you get carried from each song to each song with the creativity, the up for interpretation lyrics, and incredible melodies. And it keeps you there every step of the way. I genuinely love every second of every song. Whether it's the dreamy star sounds 2 minutes into Subterranean Homesick Alien, or Tom York screaming, "Pull me out of the air crash," and Lucky near the end of the album, man, absolute cinema. Even the weird interlude Fitter Happier I think fits perfectly into this album. When you're watching a TV show and you're covered in bird shit. I mean, there's not much more to say about this album that hasn't been said already. If you go to any music site and look at the highest rated albums of all time by user score, OK Computer is almost always in the top 10 or top 5. And it's absolutely worthy of that placement no matter how angry people get at how much praise it gets. It's absolutely worthy of the praise, and for me, certainly is the best album in Radiohead's discography. Earlier in the video, I mentioned the Pitchfork poll of best album of all time, and OK Computer ended up winning the user poll. Now, would I say OK Computer is the best album of all time? Look, I'm not saying it's the best album of all time, but I'm not saying it's the best album of all time. And I'm going to end the video at that. Thank you guys for watching, and if you want to see more artist rankings like this, let me know. I plan on doing more of them and more content like this on my channel soon. Take care, God bless, and peace.